All right, guys, let's take a look at this Seiko quote baby tuna. There's not much baby about this, to be honest with you. I've handled tunas. This thing's larger than the tuna, so it's not a baby tuna, even though that's its nickname. Don't get twisted on that. So this is the sbdy055. This was sent in by my buddy Jeff McMahon. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description down below. Definitely give his channel a check. You know, maybe even give him a sub and tell him Random Rob sent you. It's kind of fun to see Jeff take his journey and share his thoughts and beliefs on the hobby and our watch addiction. It's just fun. And currently right now, he's actually kind of going through a little bit of a test because he's got a buddy that keeps sending him some nicer watches like the Tudor Black Bay and the Omega Planet Ocean 2500 series with a 42 millimeter, which is the Planet Ocean that I like. So I think his buddy's name is Lee. So Lee, if you want, you could loan that Planet Ocean to me too. I'd be more than happy to check that one out. I have not handled one of those, and that's seriously my favorite Planet Ocean. So anyway, enough, shameless plugging on my part. Let's get into the case size on this. This is a big boy. Like I said, it's 47.8 millimeter, including the shroud. So, I mean, it's the case and everything. It's a Seiko. It's not going to wear like that, but 47.8. Now, I did take another measurement just because, why not? At the bezel, it's only like just under 41.5. So, and that's kind of what you visually focus on, more so than the shroud, because there's more dynamic printing and everything going on here that's going to draw your interest, not so much the shroud. The lug to lug is also kind of hefty at 51 millimeter, drilled lugs. Thickness, 13.5. That's actually pretty standard for most dive watches, certainly in the Seiko lineup. Most traditional Seiko divers are around the 13.5 mark, unless you deal with like a Seiko Monster, which is actually thinner. It's like under 13. So, and before I finish up the size measurements on the quote baby tuna, there is the baby tuna next to the Seiko Monster. Like I said, there's nothing baby about it. The Monster almost feels like it could fit inside the baby tuna. And the Monster is actually much closer to the size of a real tuna, the quartz one, than this guy is. I should take that back because there are other more higher end, I guess, tunas. This could be a baby tuna compared to those because those are big, but not the SBBN quartz ones. This is larger than those. Lug width, 22 millimeter. And Jeff paired it up with this strap code engineer bracelet here, non-tapering. There is a factory bracelet for this. Jeff did a little mix-up and didn't send it. The factory bracelet for this Seiko watch is identical to the Seiko Monster bracelet, with the exception that it's 22 millimeter and then it flares out, but it has the exact same appearance. It's just fitted to this case. Now, I think there's a lot of people that don't really care for the bracelet on the Monster or the baby tuna. I happen to like them, so we'll match this watch case back up with that bracelet at some point, but it is also very common that people will match it up with these engineers or even the hex head one. I don't know if I have a hex head bracelet right now, because the hex head's even nicer in the sense that it tapers down. Anytime you can get a nice little taper on a bracelet, it's going to aid in the comfort of the watch on your wrist. 7 millimeter screw down crown, screw down case back obviously, and 200 meter water resist. It's using the Seiko 4R36, so you have your day and your date, and you have basically a polished handset. If we zoom in, you can see a polished handset that is almost identical, or is identical to the Seiko Monster handset, and the dial size is essentially the same. You just have a deeper chapter ring. Well, it's very similar. I think some of these parts you could manipulate and swap over. The real difference here is going to be the case and the shroud. That's where a lot of its dimensions are added onto. Love the yellow, the splash of yellow on the seconds hand. Modders probably love sourcing parts like this to use OEM Seiko parts. Of course, I did too back in the day. But this one's a really nice, dark, deep blue to the dial. I think it's a pretty good representation in these lights. I think you're getting an accurate look at it there. And then it looks to be like a black chapter with cutout reliefs to kind of surround the heavily loomed indices on this thing. The lume on this is going to be amazing, just like you pretty much are going to expect on any Seiko diver. Here's a look at the case back. Like I said, screw down. And this is a JDM model too, in case I didn't mention that. Typically the SBDY part numbers are going to be JDM, and it'll say made in Japan, both on the case back and of course on the dial. In case you missed that, it's down there around the 6 o'clock mark. 120 click bezel on this, very Seiko-like, because it's a Seiko. Also very much Seiko-like, maybe you picked up on it. The chapter ring is a little to the left and the bezel doesn't line up, or maybe everything else isn't lined up and the bezel's lined up. I don't know, but you can half click it and it pretty much stays. It's almost impossible to bump this thing. It's so heavily shrouded. It's more shrouded, as you can see, than even the Monster. The shroud goes all the way up and conceals the traction on the bezel 100%, except for the relief and your thumb and index section, like right in here, depending on right or left-handed operation. A little bit of weight to this. I didn't weigh it because I don't think it'd be fair, because it's on this engineer bracelet. Plus, it's sized for a larger wrist than mine, so I can just tell you it's got some weight to it in this configuration for sure, and it definitely is heavier than the Monster. So I would suspect in this configuration it's near the 200 gram mark. I'm pretty sure these are discontinued as well, so again, I apologize for showing you a watch that's going to be difficult to find. Obviously used, secondary market, eBay, stuff like that. At one point Lume had these and they were like $620, so I think they were trending somewhere between the $550 and $650 mark. Sakura is a website I found. They're I think a reputable Japanese watch market, and they, I think, have in stock for $532. So if you are looking for one, maybe you could look there. I have never purchased from them. If you have and you had good or bad experience, maybe chime in the comments, so if anybody else is looking, they can have a heads up on whether it's a yay or a nay to source from them. So let's pop this on my 7 1/4 inch wrist. Guys, I can wear baby tunas, no problem. There's guys out there that collect just the baby tunas, or augment some of their other collections with, say, like Monsters or tunas with the baby tunas, because there are some beautiful colorways of this run of watches. So, and they are crazy comfortable, and they have that, tuna can shape and overall feel to it. The only big difference is the lugs are like a little heavier, and they do protrude out from the case more so than a traditional tuna would. But still, it kind of gives you that vibe. It's almost like that blend in between an oversized tuna and a Monster kind of blend. I think it would be a good way to probably describe it to someone, because it definitely has the Monster hands, and like I said, the lugs are much more like a Monster than they are a tuna. So anyway, let's kill the lights, check the lume on this. It's going to be amazing. So I switched, I don't know if you noticed at all, I can tell the difference, but the light on the right side of me is brand new. The one I had on there burned out, so like just as I was getting ready to shoot this, so now I have to reach further over for the switch. I'm going to change up some things in the watch room here soon, but it's amazing how much brighter this new light is. I'll have to change the one on the left too. But there's the lume, amazing. Would you expect anything less? I mean, honestly, right here, maybe they weren't both exposed to the same amount of light for the same amount of time, but the baby tuna looks slightly brighter than even the Monster does. But it's also newer. The Monster's older. I don't know if that has something to do with it either. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Tell Jeff hi, and I'll see you guys in the next video.